good evening everybody. Thank you very much for coming along tonight to hear about the 2014 Manx Telecom Parish Walk. The alarm does go off, then follow me and the very speedy expert panel. I would just like to introduce David Smith from Manx Telecom.
Good evening everybody, and just really to add my welcome to that of Kevin's, and wonderful to see you all here this evening. Thank you very much for coming along. You know, as Manx Telecom, we're absolutely delighted to sponsor this event. We've sponsored it for the last 3 years, or this will be our 3rd year, and so much so we're extending it for another 3 years, which is fantastic. And for those of you who are new to the Parish Walk, welcome to the very best community event on the island, and I don't say that lightly. Two things I just sort of say to you really, I guess from my own personal advice. I mean, do take the opportunity to ask questions tonight, and do listen very carefully to the answers. I've been a novice walker for the last 3 years, and I stress novice for each of those 3 years. And I've come along to this event and I've learned something every time. A couple of, I guess, more telecoms-y practical tips from ourselves. I mean, first off, you can register 2 mobile phone numbers to receive text messages every time you reach a particular parish. The person whose number you've nominated will receive a text message, so do that, take use of it. If you haven't done that at the point of registration, you can go back into your entry and do that again. That's mt.im/parishwalk. It's basically our online system which will allow your followers, your friends to nominate 9 folks who are participating in the parish walk, and again track their performance online. So every time they go through a parish, it'll ping back a little message to say the time they've reached that destination, and indeed let you know when they've finished, if indeed they do.
Cox, Ray has been the race director of the parish walk since 1995. I think he's seen that as a way to get out of actually walking, because in 1994 he walked it and became a parish walk finisher in 19 hours. Since Ray took over, and many of today's committee have taken over, the growth and change in the event has been quite spectacular.
Every year we obviously try to make the parish walk experience something special for everybody who participates, and of course their support and their family and whatever. The changes that we make year to year are usually not very visible. The race walk is what it is, but every year we're looking at trying to make sure that your safety is our #1 priority. So we're looking to modify our road closures. We're extending one-way systems, particularly around the north of the island. So those of you who are aspiring to go around the whole way, you'll find bigger traffic management issues in the north of the island. But it's safety all the way down the line for us. The parish walk has grown to the sort of event that it is, and it's wonderful to see the Isle of Man in its best light, and that's the part that struck me the most. And even back in 1994, when the event was a much smaller event, it was just how wonderfully it brought out the best of people. The committee that we have are very committed. We've been doing it now pretty much together since I joined in '95. Kevin predated me and Liz predated me, but for 20 years now we're doing the event, and we're learning and improving every year. Future is secure, and we're really grateful to Manx Telecom for our headline sponsorship. So they've ensured that for the 2015 to 2017 that we're going to have a Manx Telecom Parish Walk. So that gives us the security and the knowledge to plan, not just for this year, but also to maybe purchase stuff that we know we can use for the next 3 and 4 years. The biggest complaint and feedback, if we have to focus on the negative aspect, is the dealing with the cars and the traffic, and especially in the first part of the race, looking all the way up to, say, Peel. And lots of people have said to me, why don't we just ban the cars completely from the parish walk course? And there is a sort of a valid claim to do that, but I don't think it's practical. Plus then, the atmosphere of the race, having the people out there, the crowds on the side of the road, people that you recognise, your friends, your neighbours, your family, you know, that's such a tremendous support to you, and gives you that impetus to carry on when you're not feeling so well. So, you know, we're trying to balance the whole lot together. We have more feed stations this year. We're putting in extra feed stations. So genuinely, you don't need a car with you in close attendance, let's say, for the whole part of the first 32.5 miles, let's say. We would look to maybe get your support to drive directly to maybe strategic points where there's the ability to park up and wait for you to come along, and then of course view the whole spectacle of the parish walk.
Number one is mental attitude. You're not going to get round unless you're organised and determined. If you do that, the fitness that you need to get round can follow. At this time of year, I would say to anybody, if they're going to rush and peel or any target, sit down and write down what you need to do between now and then. Get organised. It'll take away all the doubts that you probably have. It's particularly good to sit down with someone who's done it before. That could be a coach, it could be an experienced parish walker. They'll have had the years of trying and making mistakes, and hopefully you can learn a lot through those. And I think if I asked anybody here what got them round, fitness was important. But you can be the fittest person in the world. If your mind is not right on that day, that you're going to get there, however that works for you, then you'll find that it'll fail you somewhere on the way around. So it's a preparation time now, and work out from now to the parish walk. Depending, everybody's individual, so I'd say we're all starting from different points. Some who've done nothing, some who are quite fit, and some who've done a lot of walking. You've got to start from your base and then work yourself between now and the parish walk, and a good programme whereby you're going to achieve what your goal is. Set a realistic goal. It might well be just 20 miles, it might be 32, it might be more, and work from there. But I come against a wall here that I'm speaking to everybody who's quite different, and really I would advise very much that you try and find someone who's done it, and I think we're going to be doing something to help you on that, so that we can talk to you individually to see what you're going to need to do to achieve your targets.
People generally undertrain for the parish walk or overtrain for the parish walk?
It's my own personal opinion that people probably think they've got to do more miles than they probably have to. To me, general all-round fitness is the number one, because you're going to take a lot of punishment on the day, whatever your target is, and your ability to put up with that physical punishment comes from a basic fitness. On top of that, you do need the specific fitness, and that is obviously being able to walk at the pace that you need to do for long periods. Now, in my opinion, that's probably only about 3 hours of training. Get used to that rhythm, get used to that pace, get used to being flowing nice and easy. Modern training methods are coming more to doing intensity rather than length of training, because long training takes quite a bit of getting over, whereas shorter, more intense training, you can be back out to training in a day or two's time and getting more benefit. That applies whether it's a mile or 100 miles. I'm finding in my experience looking at race walkers all over the world. I don't think it's a secret that when you improve is the time after you've trained. The adaptation period after you've done a hard training session is when your body actually makes those marginal bits of improvement. If you train hard every day, you'll find you're going to end up more tired than actually improving. So there's a basic principle in sport of hard, easy. And if you keep that in mind, generally you'll find that your improvement comes much more easy rather than hard. And then
Actually went the whole way around without being properly sick for the first time since 2004.
So up until 2013, you'd been ill every year.
Yes, it wasn't very pleasant really. So I decided to enter again this year. For the first time in a long time I actually enjoyed it.
So, particular types of food or nutrition, Michael?
I like soup.
Any particular flavour?
Not really, just salty with carbohydrate. Probably not too, either no or very little protein. A bit colder than you would expect to eat soup normally. Probably a bit more watery than you like it normally, but I mean, you need the carbohydrate in there if it's going to work for you. Most people will have bananas, but there's only so many bananas you can eat in 85 miles.
And in terms of...
I never eat them for about 3 months after the Parish.
in terms of your journey then, we can see there 22.5 hours and then a bit of a blip in 2011, back to a similar sort of time, and I know you stopped for quite a while, but picked up again and decided to finish. A bit of mental toughness in there, so what sort of attributes do you think a parish walker determined to get to the finish really needs?
I think you just really said it, that you just need that determination. That there's a lot of people help me as well, so I kind of almost want to finish for them as much as you do yourself. It's just in 2011, the reason I carried on was my wife had never finished at that stage, so I actually waited for her and Kurt Michael. I think I hold the record between Kurt Michael and Balat for the longest ever. About 3.5 hours. I went for a pint in the mitre and sleep in the back of the car.
I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. Okay, thanks, Michael. I know Dale first took part in 2010 in Breach Lazaire. I spoke to him in 2011 at Maccles when he had to stop with severe blisters on his feet, which was a difficulty, but he explained to me at the time that he had an absolute determination to one day conquer this 85-mile course. So I think for someone in Dale's position, the blister issue, the nutrition, and perhaps even the tiredness are, for everybody entering it, it's a matter that we have to manage and cope with. But Dale perhaps even more so than everybody. So I wanted to perhaps ask Dale, maybe first of all about the feet, Dale, because I know that was a #1 concern for you.
Yeah, in 2011, on the way, I found it really difficult getting down the hill towards Maccles, and I lost all the feeling in my feet. So one of the girls, the podiatrist from the diabetic centre, was out supporting her husband, and she recommended that it stopped. So she said to come to the drop-in centre on the Monday afternoon. So I went in and I'd come the scalpel, but I had 3 layers of blisters deep. So they had to scalpel all the blisters off, and I had open wounds in my feet. 5 weeks in bed, visiting the hospital every day to get them dressed. It wasn't recommended. So,
And yet he still came back.
so the following year I supported my wife. She completed it in 2012, and then I spoke to the diabetic doctor and said I would really like to do the Parish in 2013. So he said, if you want us to help you out, we can dress your feet with zinc oxide tape, which is the best stuff that has ever been invented. Yeah, the podiatrist over there taped the feet up for the Serachilia in April, and I never got a blister. So I asked her would she do the same for the Parish, and managed to get round without any blisters. Did lose all the toenails, but...
Okay, so the blister issue is a particular difficulty because of your condition, I
Yeah,
guess.
well, they reckon because of your circulation and stuff that you don't heal as quickly, so your feet's an important part of it. So,
Particularly for the parish walk.
but the zinc oxide tape I highly recommend to anyone that suffers with blisters.
Right, okay, so
And that's worn from the start, is it?
I put it on the night before, and it didn't come off till I was home.
So there we are.
I do recommend whenever you put it on and put the socks on, not to take the socks back off again until you've like finished,
Okay.
because it starts to wear the sides and that off it. Like it's quite sticky tape anyway, but yeah, it's get it on the night before. I would do a few walks before to
Well,
try it.
That was
Number one, it's got to be comfortable. So you tend to need to wear kit that you've trained in before. So you know then if there's any problems that you have with them in training, that one's for the bottom drawer, don't bring it with you. Obviously visibility is a big issue, so when you're out buying your kit, make sure you're buying something for the, you know, for the day that's fluorescent like the gentleman in front of me is perfect. Reflective kit as well, it does make a huge difference during the evening time when you've got cars coming upon you. If they can see you, if you've got this big band of reflective light coming back off you. But your comfort is the most important thing, and shoes and socks are probably, you know, we've talked about the feet before, but they're your biggest priority. You've got to keep them happy. So, you know, shoes, I know personally when I used to race, I used to always make sure there was like a thumbnail of space between my toes and the end of the shoe. Because you've got to remember you're on your feet all day. Your feet you've got a tendency to swell. And the other issue you've got, when you're walking down hills, your feet move in your shoes. And if your nails are constantly hitting the end of your shoe, that's when you get your black toenail problems, you get your blistering problems, and so forth. My other shoe recommendation would be, other than making sure you've done plenty of training in it, you obviously don't want to start the day with shoes that are completely worn out, but they need to be well worn in. But it's making sure you've got a reasonably flexible shoe. I always used to walk into a shoe shop, and if it didn't bend easily, if it was really stiff in the middle, I wouldn't bother with it. You need to have a nice flexible shoe so that your foot is able to move with the shoe and it's not working against a stiff shoe that doesn't want to move with your foot. Obviously, you don't want the shoe to be too thin because you need a little bit of protection from the tarmac, but it's just getting that happy medium. Shoe shops are really good these days, you know, to offer good advice, but my rule of thumb would be to make sure there is a little bit of give there, and make sure it's comfortable, make sure that you've got enough room for your toes. But as to other kit, t-shirts, watch out for seams that are likely to rub you, because they'll be fine in an hour or two of walking, but when you're there all day, you'll start feeling little things of. And for the ladies, bras, make sure that they fit well. I always used to stick a load of Vaseline where the band was, because obviously you're moving your arms and you get chafing rubbing there. So, you know, that Vaseline's number one.
You know,
Bring a
I'm
pot
glad,
with you.
I'm glad you said that. I didn't want to ask you about lubrication.
Well, I mean, no, but bring it with you. Don't think that necessarily if you put it on in the morning, that's going to do you all day. You need to, you know, make sure that it's available all day.
I was going to ask maybe from a male perspective.
I'm sure there's other areas. Yeah.
All moving parts.
Yeah. Walkers occasionally use strategically placed plasters. I'm not talking about the feet here. So is that something which any of our panel have used in the past or feel the need to use?
I never had any problems personally, yeah. But I mean, I do know men actually tend to suffer with it just as much as women, so.
The common term, I think, is
Yeah.
joggers.
Sometimes, I mean, if you've got pins on your, if you've got pins on your singlet, they can rub. So as you're going along, I've seen plenty of people that have, you know, had just the friction or, you know, the movement of the pins can cause problems. I mean, yeah, it depends on you. I mean, if it rains and you're feeling uncomfortable, you know, you need to change. I think what Liz was sort of saying before, because it's such a long event, conditions change, and it's about managing yourself throughout the day and being aware of what you need. That's half the battle. If you think, I'm hungry, make sure you're eating. You know, I feel a bit thirsty, just try and be on top of it all the way through. And clothing's no different. If you think, well, this is starting to bother me, and you've got your back up there and say, well, I'm feeling a bit cold, make sure you put a warm top on. It's just monitoring yourself all the way through.
Going to experience all the seasons in one day, inevitably.
Definitely,
Parish
that's
walk.
it.
So yes, protecting yourself against the sun and sun cream and whatever, very important. But look to wear maybe a number of layers, obviously a very comfortable underlayer, and then if it's very warm, maybe one other layer which will be your reflective layer, and that's where you'll have your number. So that needs to be a fairly loose arrangement, and that can be easily taken off. Put other layers on if it's going to start raining, you're going to get cold, because when you go over the slough, it gets very cold up there, particularly if it's windy. So actually, when you're fatigued and you're wet, then you're going to get hypothermic. So it's not getting too hot is your problem, getting too cold, and that would really finish you off. So it's that balance between making sure that the sweat is getting away from your skin and it's not lying there cooling you down too much. But then conversely, on a very, very hot day, you have to watch yourself against the sun. So really, you need to prepare for everything.
Tracy, as I said earlier, described in our slides as a novice walker, but I think that's a little bit unfair. Tracy competed in the parish walk 8 times. First entered in 1994, where I think she got to Russian. Looking at the fabulous statistics on Murray Lander's www.parishwalk.com website, every fact and figure that we could ever want is there. So 8 times between 1994 and 2004. I guess someone who came to it as just wanting to take part in the event, like many of us do, to then saying, guess what, this is a challenge, it's an 85-mile challenge that one day I would like to complete. So with that background, I really wanted to ask Tracy is what changed between 1994 and gave her the impetus and the oomph to get going and get round in 2004?
Probably training. When I started in 1994, I just took part as a participant, and then you get the bug, you get the hype and everything else on the day, the atmosphere, and you want to go a little bit further. But a bit like Michael, I'd got to Derby a couple of times and was severely sick, vomited a lot of the time, didn't take enough food on, didn't take enough water, not enough liquids. So when I decided that I'd like to finish, I actually had a training programme, and I trained, but having 3 small children at the time, I did it around life balance and work. So I would go out early in the mornings, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and do my training before the children got up, to make sure that, and I also trained not on the flat, I went on the hills, because you have to recognise that obviously the parish walk isn't just flat, there's a lot of ups, there's a lot of downs, and that's what I did. But I didn't do massive training in the sense of 20-30 milers. I did a lot of 12 and 15s, and basically it was the training that got me round.
Farquhar, Dale used to race motorcycles. You probably gathered by the name. There's a bit of a family tradition. And when he was 21, was diagnosed as diabetic, which resulted in him having to give up that sport. So motorcycling's loss was athletics' gain, I guess. He turned to cycling, and when he moved to the Isle of Man a number of years ago, found out that the island has a mad passion for walking and for athletics, and joined the merry group. What changed between preparing for shorter, more sprint events, and how perhaps to take a slightly different approach to an event like the parish walk?
Well, when you do the shorter distance, obviously I was aiming for a fast time. In the parish walk, I was pretty laid back. I walked with Bridget all the way, and we just started sort of middle of the field, I think, and took it to about the top of Hibernia, and then that was when our race walking kicked in, because I knew then I was going to finish the parish walk. Up until that point, I was a complete novice. 85 miles is completely different to 10k or 20k. So you don't know what's going to happen. 85 miles is a long way. Anything can happen in that time. So I think we took it very cautiously, didn't we, Bridget? Walked and talked and remained friends. But it's just taking it really steady and having respect for that distance. Don't try and get carried away with someone else. Have your own plan. My plan was to get round the parish walk, not a time in my head at all. I think, especially if it's your first time and you have a time in your head, that can take over, and then defeat could come in because you're not going to get that time that you've set yourself. So if you're going in for a first time, you're probably better doing it like we did, and going in with a completely open mind and just saying you want to get round it. And I think, like Michael said, it is determination. It's having, I didn't want to be defeated, I wanted to finish it, just like any of the shorter distances that I'd done previously. You know, you want to do your best, and my best was to finish the parish walk, so just to respect that 85 miles.
So I mean, we shouldn't automatically assume that everybody who enters has a target of doing 85 miles. The fact is far from that. Many people have a target of rushing or
at the beginning, when I first started walking, it was just a hobby, like most people. And I started the parish walk. The first time I did the parish walk, I only got to Russian. I got cramp on the way into Russian, so I had to pull in then, where Peel was my target at that time. So I probably didn't know anything. I was a complete novice. I hadn't done race walking at all at that point. The next year I did it, I was 7th, I think, into Peel, because I trained harder. And then Alan also coached me, and that was when my race walking then came in. And I raced to Peel and won it 3 times back to back. Just setting myself a time at that point. And then I decided to give up the parish walk and concentrate on, as Kevin described it, race walking, as the Olympic sort of type walking, that race walking. So I left the parish walk, and that was when I joined the committee. But so it is completely different, but my goal was always at the end of my walking career to have a go at the whole 85 miles.
The questions are getting harder as we come along because you run out of options, of course. So Michael, other than bringing a little brown bag off the aeroplane, what's your top tip?
Drink.